Well, good morning. Today I'm going to talk about the prologue to the Gospel of St. John. And I think that it's so familiar to me, and perhaps many of you too, that the extraordinary nature of it can sometimes be lost. It really is either the most arrant nonsense or something so amazingly wonderful, so extraordinary, that it should just continually blow our minds and fill us with huge joy, it seems to me. Anyway, I'm going to focus on a couple of elements of it, the ones that I think are the most important. It begins like this: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now that in itself is extraordinary enough, but it's something that a lot of people at the time, and perhaps a lot of people today, could make sense of, particularly for Jewish people at the time. And the chap who wrote this, let's call him John for want of a better name, and quite possibly the follower of Jesus. I'm perfectly happy to believe that, though some people have questioned it. He will have been thinking, and he wanted his readers to think of the very beginning of the whole Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God said, "Let there be light." So it was God's word that created everything. So the word is being seen as this creative agent at the heart of everything, at the beginning of everything, right behind whatever goes on. But John was clearly also a speaker and writer of Greek, as were many Jews at the time. And among the more educated philosophical types of Greek-speaking Jews, there would have been a further resonance in the word used for word in this passage, because it runs in its Greek original as follows: En archein hologos, kai hologos en proston theon, kai theos en hologos. Now, obviously, the word theos means God, and the word logos is normally translated as word, as it was in the version I was quoting a moment ago. But logos can mean something very much more profound than simply a spoken word. Logos, among Greek philosophers' time, or some of them, was considered to be the principle of reason and order that lies at the heart of the universe. And John is regarding this logos as a personal concept, a cosmic consciousness, if you like. So it's not just a spoken word, though it is that, and that is extraordinary enough, because God creates by his spoken word in the book of Genesis. But it also has a resonance of being the principle of order, of reason, at the very heart of the universe. Is what, as we might say today, makes the laws of physics, or whether the different systems of laws of physics in other universes, we don't know. But there is order, there is a system of predictability. You can make sense of the universe with enormous difficulty, but it can be done. The universe is not just a random chaos of nothing happening for any particular reason, with no predictability at all. So this is an idea that can make sense both to a modern reader, the order at the heart of the universe, if you want, the laws of physics, but also to an ancient one. This is the logos that is the reason why everything is. And that is how this gospel starts. There's no birth story. Jesus doesn't appear as a human being, as a historical preacher, until a few verses later. But what is most extraordinary is that after a process of, I suppose you'd call it, philosophical reflection on what this logos is in the first few verses, we build up to the most extraordinary proclamation at verse 14, which is where the reading selected for this morning ends. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. We have beheld his glory, the glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Now, that is most extraordinary because the word flesh in the original Greek, sarx, is, as in the modern word flesh, something very, very concrete, something even in the writings of St. Paul, referring to the world in its state of mess, of fallenness. But I don't think that's what John means. I think what John means here is flesh as physical, concrete stuff. And in the case of us as human beings, and indeed all living beings, this is physical, concrete stuff that is alive. It has within it the principle of life. But it is, of course, extremely humble stuff, though utterly wonderful in its way, because the physical processes of life, beginning with the emergence of the most simple life forms, and in our case, the emergence of something which I suppose, well, it's microscopic, but even when you can see it, it's pretty unimpressive, the fertilized egg from which we all grow. This is flesh, this is the fleshly, concrete stuff. And John is saying that the cosmic consciousness at the heart of the universe, the creative principle, the logos, actually became flesh, joined himself to the humblest processes of life. And this cosmic consciousness become flesh, become something fairly unimpressive, is what Jesus Christ is. Not just a physical human being walking and talking, but the cosmic consciousness living a human life. And living a human life doesn't just mean doing wonderful things as an adult. It means being conceived in a womb. It means being a cluster of cells, an embryo, something growing from very humble beginnings. It is that physical, concrete reality that the cosmic consciousness, the logos, has filled with its presence. And furthermore, there is this most extraordinary claim, and we have beheld his glory, the glory as of an only begotten Son, only Son of God, full of grace and truth. This writer is claiming to have witnessed this very event of a human being living as his friend, as his master, as his teacher, but also being something much more wonderful than that. And this is a point that's been made countless times by Christian theologians in the past. I think Martin Luther said it, and many others would have done so as well, pointed out that the creator of all, the cosmic consciousness, the principle at the heart of reality, the personal consciousness, has lived as a tiny child, as a tiny embryo, as something so small and apparently insignificant, and filling it with his presence. And all sorts of things follow from this. There is a tendency these days to sort of downgrade human nature and to elevate the nature of animals. So very often we are said to be nothing but animals, but just ordinary animals. And then animals themselves are said to be actually much more wonderful than we'd thought, because they're more intelligent than we realized. And these two things are quite curious. I want to turn the thing completely on its head. I'm very happy to elevate the intelligence of animals. Animals are mysterious and wonderful beings. They're part of God's creatures. And of course, the flesh of which animals are composed is very similar to our own flesh. We have evolved from animals, but it is that flesh which the cosmic consciousness has taken on in the incarnation of Jesus. And if that's true, then elevate animals all you like. They are very wonderful. God has created them. God has filled them with his spirit, as the book of Genesis makes absolutely clear. But humans are perhaps yet more wonderful, because it was our particular flesh, on this planet anyway, that the cosmic consciousness chose to adopt to become the human being Jesus. And not just the flesh of an adult, but the flesh of an embryo, the beginnings of human life, in which all life perhaps is somehow recapitulated, because in the simple collection of cells, we are sharing our origin with all life on this earth. And I suppose for me, what follows from this is that if it is true, and of course you may say this is complete nonsense, I cannot marry up ordinary human physical life with this wonderful principle of reason, of consciousness, of order at the heart of the universe. But if it is true, all sorts of wonderful things follow. We should be in a constant state of rejoicing that this is the reality. We are wonderful beings. There is nothing human that is beneath us. And we should not only perhaps regard ourselves as wonderful creatures, but also all those whom we encounter, we should think no one beneath our notice, no one beneath our respect or admiration, because John said that he beheld the glory of Jesus, full of grace and truth. He was the sort of archetypal human, the cosmic consciousness living a human life. And from his wonder, he has given a great glory to us too, as his human creatures. Sark's flesh, human life is something utterly wonderful. And we may be overwhelmed by its fallibility, its brokenness, and the way in which the matter around us can work against us, whether through weather or whether through pandemics. It doesn't matter. It creates problems, and we might be inclined to say the physical world is something we should escape from. But the Christian claim is that the physical world has been transformed with a wonderful promise for the future by the presence of God himself, the cosmic consciousness. And I would suggest that we find this a matter for rejoicing. And also, when you finish watching this, if you've made it this far, that is, go and look in the mirror and just say, what a wonderful piece of work, because this is the flesh, this is the kind of body which the cosmic consciousness, God at the heart of the universe, was not too proud to come among and live among and transform with his life-giving, glorious presence. And if that doesn't cheer you up, I don't know what will. May God bless you all, and may your day go well.